But when it's fast, it's hard to register because it's so fast. And so you're there, and then you're just catapulted into another reality. And so when that happened, and I was, in this blackness, I was confused, and there was no sound, there was no smells, there was no stimuli, which, think about it, it's really confusing because you can't go through life without some kind of stimuli or some kind of reaction. And this was nothingness. Then I saw a little pin light. And then as it got closer, I saw that it was Jesus.
Tamara Caulder Richardson, welcome to Passion Harvest. I am so excited to have you on the show today.
Me as well. I have really been looking forward to it. And you are quite a lovely person. And I can't wait to spend this time with you.
Oh, so are you, and I'm coming on your show soon, which will be exciting.
Yes.
I'll advertise that when it comes up. We have
Yeah.
so much to cover today. My gosh, what a wealth of information. I'd love to start. You've had 6 near-death experiences. Wow. I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, 6 near-death experiences. Well, I'll go through them, and the cool stuff that's in each one, I think that is really relevant that I'll mention, and then I'll talk about the after effects too, because I think that's something that's so important that people don't talk about. I've always been, first of all, I'm so grateful to be here and grateful to anyone that's listening to this, and hopefully they'll get something out of it. When I was before I was born, and my mother was pregnant, my mother, one of my first ones, and people don't realize it, is a prenatal near-death experience, which is in the book Forever Angels, PMH Atwater. Anyhow, she was losing blood, she was losing me, and I saw above, um, her and crying, and then my aunt that was in the bathroom that was trying to help her, and she was upset, and I really felt just concern for her. But I do remember being a spirit person looking out because I wasn't, born yet. And so I'm looking out the window, and I remember all these memories. And so that was really my first one. I didn't realize it was one till much later on, but I have detailed memory that and emotion behind it. But the first one that I can recall, and it was 3 years old, and that's really what opened the window up for me as far as spirit people, the other side, and all of that. And it's just never closed. There's just layers of an onion that it has been coming off with each time. And I do want to point out, you don't have to have a near-death experience to go on a spiritual journey or for your spirituality to evolve. You can just decide you want to, ask God. You want to seek what's out there beyond this world, but to do it in a safe, loving way, and the experiences will present themselves. But when I was 3 years old, I was playing with a cousin of mine in a very old Victorian looking antebellum, because I'm from the South, as you might could tell. And it was an old house. And it was nice though. It was my uncle. He married this lady. So we're at the mother-in-law, and they were well off. They had money. So it was a nice place, but we were playing hide and seek, and I ran upstairs, and I'm trying to find a place to hide, and there was a dresser there, and the dresser, for some reason, had a nail nailed to it on the other side. So when I'm jumping, without knowing it, because who would have thought a dresser would have had a nail hanging down, it pierced through my skull. So when it did, I thought it was water, like a water glass fell, but it was blood. And the minute that I touched it, I was on the floor. I was above my body. I mean, all the things that you would think that someone would say, but it's true. I was above my body. Uh, and I think the reason for that, now looking back on that, is I just didn't want to experience the pain because it was painful. And so I could hear the commotion. I could see it unfolding. That my cousin came up there, went and got the adults, and they were kind of panicking what to do. And then eventually my grandmother came over to and my granddaddy to take me to the internist. And so and back in the day, that's when she knew people really well in town, so they just kind of got me in through the back door, and he looked at me. But what happened during that process is I could see outside of the home, in the home, I could hear everyone's conversation at one time. I saw an angelic being about, it was big, 8 to 10 foot. I mean, it was huge. It was quite big. It could have been smaller than that because I'm small. It could have been no less than 7 feet. And it was over my head, and it had glowy, it was glowy everywhere. But I knew it was an angel. Now, my grandmother, you know, at this point, I'm very young, so I don't know a lot about religion or anything, but I knew it to be an angel. And so I believe it was healing my head. And then I went back in my body, and it was felt like an automatic thing, and it was extremely painful. Um, so I popped back out and looked around and kind of waited for things to happen. And I eventually went back into the body. And again, they had to watch me overnight, not at the hospital. This is back in the day. That didn't happen. So they just watched me overnight. My grandmother was watching me closely when my mom was a young mom. So my grandmother was very hands-on. And what happened is that I had a hole literally because it went through my skull. So it was a soft spot on my head for 2 years. And so that opened me right up to see. I always saw spirit people afterwards. And the problem with that is that they would try to talk to me now I know, trying to get my help, but they were the lower level lost souls, as we might call it, or the ghosts. And I felt sorry for them, but I couldn't help them. I mean, I was just a kid. And so I didn't have anyone to talk to about all of this. And then when I was 4 years old, my mom was seeing this guy. So we, at the time, lived in Hickory, North Carolina, which is in the USA. And it's in the foothills of the mountains. It's pretty. And most of my family migrated from Sweden and Germany. So it kind of looks like that. It's really pretty. And so that particular day, my mom wanted to go on a date with this guy she was smitten with. And my grandmother did not want her to go, and that it was a bad day. It was snowing. It was icing over. It really wasn't a day you go out. But my mom's very hard-headed. And so she wanted me to meet him. And in a small town, this guy was from out of town. He dressed really snappy, the latest fashions, nice looking. She was just had her mind set on this man. And so I went with her to meet him, and he picked us up. And then we went out to go eat. I think we went to the Pizza Hut and then had a pizza, a strange of all things. And then we went and had ice cream. And after that, after the ice cream, we went to his DJ. He was a DJ. So we went to his radio station, which called Channel One. And so we went there, and they got into a conversation. I was in a room. He said, pick out any kind of, LPs I wanted. I remember I picked out a nun song, The Lord's Prayer. And I used to play that all the time as a kid. And now I know it's great protection for anything. It's a great call to action. So, and I got the Monkees and also a Motown hit, but that's just a little thing on the side. But I could have had anything I wanted, but that's all I wanted. And so they're talking about an hour and 15 minutes or so. They come out, they're arguing. She wants to get married. He wants to wait till it's the right time, more money, what have you. So we get in the car, and he storms out of there. And there's no one hardly in the roads. And he puts in the brakes, and we turn around in a circle, and we hit a tree. I go through, this is pre-car seat day. So I'm in the front seat with no car seat. I go, it's an old Pontiac and a gold Pontiac, and I go up through the windshield. And as soon as the impact hit, I did not feel the pain. And I can tell you from doing a lot of evidential medium readings that in the moment of impact, they do not feel the pain. So people always go, do they feel it? And I'm like, no, they're gone. The God's really good like that. And so the minute of the impact, I was out of my body. But the confusion was it was all black and I couldn't find my hands or feet. So I was confused because it was so quick. I mean, it was just it's kind of amazing that God is so perfect that our time of passing, whether it's, through slow illness or impact. I mean, let's think about it. You can either go fast or quick, right? If you want to simplify things. There's a lot of way to go. It's either fast or quick. But when it's fast, it's hard to register because it's so fast. And so you're there and then you're just catapulted into another reality. And so when that happened and I was, in this blackness, I was confused and there was no sound, there was no smells, there was no stimuli, which think about it, it's really confusing because you can't go through life without some kind of stimuli or some kind of reaction. And this was nothingness. Then I saw a little pin light. And then as it got closer, I saw that it was Jesus and he had some people behind him. Even though I had never met them, I knew intuitively they were my relatives. And so he's coming toward me, and it was just almost like a movie track where he's on a track coming toward me, and his hair is blowing, and his hands are reached out toward me. And you think, well, that may sound odd. Well, it was odd. I was in a black space. I was really happy to see him. So I was really glad. And it was interesting. It was very personal because um, it was just a few months before I was playing with, I thought was a ball, and I was looking at it. It was outside, and I threw it to bounce it because I didn't understand. It wasn't a ball. It was a bird's egg. So when I found out there was a living bird in it, I like suffered over that. I cried and I cried and I suffered. And so one of the first things that these relatives that I didn't know said is that we have your bird. It's okay. And I was like, that just made me so happy. But he told me that I had to go back. And I said, and then I thought about it. I thought, I don't know if I want to now. And then he's like, no, well, you have to. And then I was back and my nose was shattered in several places. It was really messed up. I was bleeding. They did not take me to a hospital. They did not. And they brought me back to that radio station. And even the maid that was working there, because it was kind of an off day, she's like, I'll take her. And they're like, no. So from that moment on, because my mom was a single mom at that point, she was married, were young, quickly, then divorced, lived with my grandparents. And so she wanted to move back in with him. And he didn't have money. So I didn't like that. Lived in a trailer, which, what is it, England called a caravan. I did not like that. And so that was years later, I've had like 3 surgeries to remove cartilage from my nose because it was shattered. And I have these sinus problems. And they said, we keep finding broken cartilage in there. So it's a wonder, I just feel really grateful that it could have been so much worse. It could have shattered my face. I mean, I had such a little body, and I'm just really grateful for that. The next one was, so each time this happened, I can see with more clarity and hear with more clarity spirit people. Now at this point, I can hear whole conversations. I still do. I hear whole conversations. I have to tell them to stop. Usually before I have a reading session, they'll come. I don't know why, but they come to me in the bathroom. And I'm like, your grandmother, she's talking about the flowers and this kind of flower. They're like, yeah. I'm like, I just went to the bathroom. She was telling, I don't know why they tell me things in the bathroom, but I can hear whole conversations. It's because the veil had been weakened. And I think the purpose of my life path for this happening is because I needed to see there was more to this world than what it appears to be. I needed to see that. And I needed to have that connection with the divine and God and angels and Jesus and all of that. And my next, so I had an NDE in 3, 4, 5 in a row. And then 5 years old, and I kept this a secret for many years. And most people with near-death experiences do till they get older, because it's just really hard to process. And you put it in these dark you're like, I don't know what it means. And then you get older, you forget about it. You go with life, you go to college, you get married, you do what people do, whatever. And then later on, it's like, remember me. And then you are safer to deal with it. And that's what happened to me at the time. And I knew what it was. I just couldn't do anything with it. So, I mean, I wouldn't call it NDE. We didn't have those words back then, but I knew it was very different. I knew it was something happened. So when I was 5 years old, and it's kind of strange to say that it's an endearing near-death experience, but it was an endearing near-death experience. It changed my life in a way that um, I don't think I would be the same walking through life. I think I would be very disgusted with society and how cruel they are to one another sometimes. Not that I don't love people. Of course I love people, but all the bad elements, it's distasteful, at times, and all the arguing and all of this. So when I was 5, I was at this point, my mother ended up marrying the guy against my grandmother and granddaddy. They did not like him. He was a player. I mean, he was known for messing around, with other women. I mean, he was nice looking and he knew that, and he cheated and so forth, and continued to actually, she didn't know it, but she found out later, cheated all through the marriage and all that. But he was sexually abusing me. And I was a really sweet, innocent little girl. I mean, you say, aren't all kids? Yeah, they are, but some are like just coming to this world, mean as a hornet, and then, but I was sweet. And I would start having these conversations with God and also Jesus, because I remember my grandmother said that Jesus was our friend. I was like, well, I need to connect with this guy, Jesus. If he's your friend, I need to really connect with him. So I would tell him, I said, can you just kill him? But see, I didn't understand that was a bad concept because I was a little girl. And so I kind of got a frown on that, a spiritual frown. And so I was like, okay, well, you can just take me. It's okay. And I didn't understand sex or sexuality because I'm 5 years old. And so I just went, I don't know what this is, but I don't like it. And I just don't want to be here anymore. It's too hard being here. And so when you really say that and you really mean it, God listens. So we got to be very careful. And so I was very serious. I was very grieving. I think you hear people that are ready to go and they go, I think you can. And so I remember I got very sick, and I remember the sofa we had. It's so funny what was on with TV, what time it was. I remember all the precepts. At this point, we had moved from Hickory to Raleigh, North Carolina, which was a bigger city. And we moved there, and we were in these new apartments. And I remember looking out at the pine trees. I had pneumonia, and I remember them arguing about. He said, "No, we don't have the money," but my grandparents had a lot of money, so they would have easily, no problem, paid for it. So he was just being difficult. He wasn't a very nice person, and so she put me to bed. She tried to get me to eat. I was like, no, what was going on is my lungs were shutting down. So she put me into bed and she checked on me in an hour. I was completely drenched. So she goes, that's it. We're going to the hospital. Well, at this time, Dr. Martin Luther King, the civil rights, famous person, he was assassinated. Well, he was assassinated in the South. I lived in the South of the USA. So it was riots. They had martial law. They had military. You couldn't leave. But I was, I was dying. They didn't know that at the time. They just knew I was very ill. And so they put me in it's called a press car. So he had like, the letters of the radio station on it and so forth. And we had to go through military gates. And on the way there, I died. And they clocked me in when I got to the hospital being dead 15 minutes. I was still, they still kept working on me, but I had already been dead 15 minutes. But I went out of my body. It was the most, I hate to make this sound great, but when you have pneumonia, I don't know. Let me see what I can relate it to. And has anyone ever been really, really sick and they just can't get up? They're like, I just can't move. It's like that, but you just kind of wither away. You just kind of fade away. And it's sort of peaceful, to be honest. It's really peaceful because you're like, you just kind of drift away. And so I drifted. I remember losing consciousness, and then I just drifted, and I was above the car about 200 feet, and I was looking at the fires and the riots from the distance in the city and so forth. And then we stopped at one of the military. I remember he had MP on. He had the army hat, and he's like, "Where are you going? What are you doing out?" And they said, "Oh, our daughter," which she was trying to adopt me, didn't really ask me, but was trying to adopt me. And so he said that he wasn't my biological dad. And so they said, "Oh, we'll call ahead. Go ahead. We'll call ahead so you can, they'll look for you. We'll let you straight through." So they called. I said, you want us to call the hospital for you?" He said, "Please." So I remember the hospital was called Rex because I was thinking T-Rex because I'm a kid. So we go there, and there's 12 people that run out. 2 are male doctors, and the staff, it's a big staff, comes out and gets me going, and they rush me in the back, and I see all these lights, and they hook me up to things, and they start pumping this stuff out of my lungs. It looks like phlegm, honestly. They're trying and fluid, and that kind of grossed me out because I'm a kid again. So I'm like, ooh. So I leave the room in spirit. I look for a while and I leave, and I go through the hospital and kind of just look around in the hospital. There was a little girl on a candy machine that did see me in spirit form, which I thought was kind of cool. And I talked to her for a minute, and then I would go in different rooms and look at people and see how they're doing and check on them. And I thought, I really enjoyed it. I thought, well, I could do this. I'm like an angel. This is great. I can check on people. Then I would go back into the room and see what they're doing. And they were saying so many CCs, code blue. And basically that went on for 2 hours. And I was on and off a flat line for 2 hours straight. And then eventually, everybody was the women were crying in the room. And one doctor said, "I have a daughter her age." And they rolled me out in the hall and put a sheet over me. And when I remembered that part of it, it was, I don't know, that really bothered me, that because it's kind of final. But someone saw that there was movement, and my lungs were very, very shallow, but they put me in one of these tents, breathing tents, and that's where I stayed in a induced coma 3 days. But on the spiritual side of things, the really cool story is as that wasn't my perception of what was going on. My perception was totally different. My perception, I was checking back and forth. I was going and checking on people. One lady was giving birth and she was almost dying, and I was telling her to hang in there for her child. Then there was a spirit. I think I'm like Miss Angel now. And then I go to another guy's room, his old man, and he didn't have much water. No one's checking on him. So I knock off the glass so it makes a noise. So someone will go refill his glass. And then I go back. And when I didn't see the sheet thing till later because I was in this whole spiritual realm. What happened is I saw we were Protestant, but I knew they were Catholic. Okay. I knew because they had the rosary, but they were spirit people, but there was a male and a female, a nun and a priest. And the woman said, "Blessed are the innocent." At the time, I didn't know she was talking about me, but she was talking about me. And at the time, I didn't realize it was a Catholic hospital. I didn't find that out till actually 5 years ago. I didn't even know. And it was the old hospital they built over at another location, but it was Catholic hospital. And so they really take their job seriously, even after death. And so next thing I know is I'm in a different dimension immediately when they're doing that. They seem very kind of sad. And I didn't understand why they're sad. And then I looked down and there was a man that was holding my hand, and he was on one knee. It was a right hand with the right hand, and he was smiling. He had the most beautiful smile in the whole world. And it was Jesus, 100%. People said, "Well, it could be this or that." No, I'm just telling you, 100%. Your soul knows it. It's just not just a visual. Your soul knows it. And I said, "You're that man I talked to," like he's a celebrity, which he is. And he goes, "I am." And he had all this glowy light coming out of him, and his teeth were really pretty because you never see him smile very much. And so his teeth were really beautiful. His eyes, to me, his eyes were like a blue green. They were the oddest thing. So it was almost like they were shifting colors. They were like so dimensional. It's hard to explain, but his hair was below his shoulders, a little below his shoulders, and he was lean but muscular. And he said that I had to. He said he took something off his belt first, and we were in this pasture, and to the left, there were about three children that were on these turnaround, these merry, it's not really a merry-go-round, but where you push it, you go around in a circle. And he said I had to go back. And I said, well, they're here. And then he smiled real big and he said, I have something to give you. And I said, a toy? Because I am 5 years old. And he goes, and he thought that was funny. And I thought, oh, he thought that was funny. But I did. I said, "Do you have a toy?" He goes, and then he took a piece of his belt off that was just a plain, simple rope belt. And then he put something in my left hand. He said, I wrap you in my love, protection, and wisdom. Much is given, much will give. Through the small things, the big things would be done. And through the big things, the small things would be acknowledged. And then he said that I had to go back. And I said, and I argued. I said, they're here, that whole thing. And then he said, your mother needs you. And then he showed me almost like that, the Jimmy Stewart movie, where the Christmas movie where you're seeing the goat. I can see what she's doing. Even though we're there, I can see at a glance. I don't know how that's possible, but I can see dimensionally she's sitting crying. She doesn't know I'm dead. The doctor kept going out to her when I was there and said, we're trying to get her vitals, but she didn't know what that meant. And so she was crying. And I said, she'll be fine. And at this point, I really want to stay with him. And he goes, she'll be fine. And he's like, no, you've got more love in you than she has for herself. You have to go back and show her love. I said, well, how do I do that? And he said, well, everybody does it differently. There's no right or wrong way of showing love. You have to figure that out yourself. He said, this is something I know a little bit about. I thought that was funny. I remember he said that. And so I said, I don't know. He says, okay, you stay for a little bit. He said, walk with me. So as we started walking, he had the prettiest feet too. Because, a lot of men, their feet don't look that great. I mean, they're okay, but his looked like he went to the salon. I mean, they were like so pretty. And as he's walking, the grass curled around his feet, and it's like every blade of grass and everything, and the clouds were following him. And then when he was talking, and I was observing that everything, it was almost like it had a whisper, like a soft whisper, like in worship to him. It wasn't creepy. It was beautiful. It was like harmonic. Everything had a harmonic frequency. And I was observing this harmonic vibration there. It was just tantalizing. It was just alive. And then he said, let's go over here and sit. You can ask me what you want. He was very gentle about things. And we sat there on this rock. And he said, we'll sit here. And this rock was a big rock in front of this tree. He pretty much sat there because it was taller than me. And I kind of leaned next to his leg and kind of looked up at him. And he said I could ask him anything. And I asked him things like electricity, but then he would tell me through telepathy, mind to mind, very quickly. So I was very kind of bored with things like, oh, okay. And then then he started teaching me. And he said, I want to talk about how we create things here. He used more simple words than we would as an adult. And he said that we create here, I said, and in heaven, he said, we create here instantly. And he said, but we're back on Earth. He said that it takes longer. So you need to be very mindful of the words that you use, because your words are coming through manifesting the reality that you want, or the things that you want. It'll show up in things. And I said, so I went back to what he said. I said, so you could do things really quick here. And he goes, yes. But to me, it felt just like being in a body on Earth, although it wasn't the same substrate, even though I looked the same. It looked like grass. It looked more high vibration, but I wouldn't say it was made out of the same thing. But, you think about the Lord's Prayer, on heaven and earth. Well, of course, earth is going to look like heaven, and heaven's going to look like earth, except heaven doesn't have any garbage. That'd be a great name of a book. Heaven doesn't have any garbage. So, but it doesn't. Everything is beautiful. Nothing rots. Everything stays young and beautiful. And so, he said that, well, if you can try it if you want to. So I visualized us being in a little boat, and he was on one end, and I was on the other. We were in this little river, and these fish came up to him, about 3 of them. He picked one up. And he talked to it, said, hey, put it back down. He said, that's how we fish here. And then he kind of winked at me. And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And it does come through, like, in my readings, they'll say, oh yeah, we're on the Alps, climbing and doing whatever. They have replicas there. Can't really get hurt. And so I thought that was fascinating. So he said that be very mindful of what you say, because you're creating us. You want to create good things. And then he told me that I had to go back. I did argue. And so when I went back, I did go back to the hospital, but I wouldn't go in my body because I'm hard-headed. So I kept going around and playing angel some more. And then there was a doctor that came up, and he had a bald head and a little bow tie. And he looked like a little scientist. He had little round glasses. And he said, little girl, you need to go back. I remember his name was Dr. Tippin. He was a spirit doctor still at the hospital. I guess he felt like the administrator, like an important person at one time. And he said, you have to go back in your body. I'm like, no, not going to do it. It's going to hurt. And so Jesus showed up in the hospital, and he said, you have to go back now. I said, no, it's going to hurt. He said, I've made it okay for you. And then as soon as he touched me, I woke up in this tent. And so my mom and my grandparents, and then my stepdad was sitting in the chair over there, over to the side. And so my mom never told me any of this. And I told this to her. I kind of came out, told her maybe 5 years ago. And she's like, how do you know this? Because they didn't want me to ever know. So that I never broke the link with Jesus. He is my best friend, and he's my teacher. He's my redeemer. I go to him for everything I've done through him, giving prophetic messages to, he's done he's doing it. I'm just sort of helping out a little bit, but he's done a lot of deliverances with people, a lot of illnesses. I've seen now walking in front of people. Sometimes they'll just start demonically, they'll just come out and it'll manifest with me now, because they know I walk with him. Not that I'm perfect, I'm not, but it'll just come out. I've had that happen. I even had someone on my show before that happened. We're friends now. We're good friends, but these things could come up through family lines. They can come up with something we did in the past, like Ouija, and he cleanses people and he makes them whole. It's kind of a miracle, because how do you do that? It's just amazing. But he's very much so alive. He's multidimensional, and I have a tremendous amount of deep love for him. So that never went away. And I didn't realize I have journals that I found. They're like 39 years old of journals that at the time I didn't call it channeling him, because I didn't know what that word was. I just, would write down feelings I had about Jesus, but he was giving me messages. He also gives it to me. I hear him all the time. I can hear him, and he's really funny. Jesus has a great sense of humor. He's really kind, but he's really funny. He's very witty. And you have to think about it. Back in the day, he talked to all kinds of people. even some really base characters. And he had to be able to be charming and to be able to communicate with a lot of people. And I think people leave that out, but he's quite entertaining at times. I mean, he's really like you would imagine a friend would be. So the other one, when I was at 10, I was in Myrtle Beach on vacation with my family, and I got hung up with some guys playing volleyball. And I heard angels start singing, and the water started opening it in the middle. I couldn't get my breath, and I could hear a choir of angels. It was beautiful. It was like layers of angels. And I really thought in my head, not again. I can't believe this. And then I woke up and the lifeguard was getting the water out. And then another one happened when I was 38. And my medical doctor, I was having menstrual migraines, said, well, take this pill. It's for menstrual migraines. Well, they didn't have Google internet access where you could go and just Google what this was. So I took it, and I took it like, I think it was like 3 times. And I was like, I don't like this stuff. I think it was the third or fourth time. It wasn't a lot. I was supposed to take it in the evenings. I woke up like bells went off. I went boing, and I woke straight up. I didn't have, I don't know why. I couldn't access my vocal cords. I don't know why I couldn't. And I couldn't quite know how to wake my husband up. And I don't know why I couldn't, not because I wasn't aware of that. It wasn't working mentally. I couldn't make that work. And so I did get straight up, and I went into the living room. It was almost like I felt like Frankenstein. Like I had assistants getting up. I don't know how I got up, and like rising from the dead. I really got up, and then I went and turned on the TV, thinking, well, if I can follow this, whatever they're saying, then I'll be okay. And that's not what happened. I started hearing this white noise sound. I was like, oh man. And then I started feeling very fearful, which I know what comes after that is you don't care. You're very relaxed, which is what happened. And then I didn't know I was male or female. I didn't know my name. I thought, well, this can't. I remember thinking, this can't be good. And then I started looking at my living room, and it started breaking down into white lines. Now, this is way before The Matrix, the movie series, and all that. And it was little white, everything was white lines. So they talk about the holographic universe, but my furniture was all in white lines. So, next thing I know, I'm in the galaxy, and I'm at the nebula in the Milky Way, which I really like. Apparently, other star-related family lives there, like the Palladians and the Arcturians and the Andromedans. I don't know. I really like it there, but I remember hanging out there. And then I willed myself in my body because I could also think, and I was also observant of my body, but also there. And I just took one finger and I poked myself in my leg to bring myself in my body. It took a while. I mean, this whole thing went on for a couple hours. I mean, till I finally was aware, but I'm very sensitive to stuff. That's all I can say. I was just very sensitive to whatever the heck they gave me. I stopped. I don't take things. I mean, I take aspirins and things like that, but when necessary, but I don't like to take things if possible, if possible. I just don't, because I don't know how it's going to react. So having that, I did not realize too many years later that at the Monroe Institute they do levels, some like near death experience. You can see that, you can kind of have that sort of feeling. They take you through this meditative hemisync, and they have soul retrievals. One of them, another one is the white lines. I'm like, what? And you can see that. So our universe is being held up through constructs that we agree to, which means we need to agree to a better universe. That might be good. One with a higher love vibration. That's what I'm trying to bring to the planet. And I know a lot of people like yourself are doing the same. So each time I had these near-death experiences, I also had many spiritually transformative experiences in between. Seeing ghosts, seeing demons as a kid. They were literally they were demons. They were not aliens. Just going to make that clear. Aliens can't walk backwards, upside down on the ceiling and on the walls that are humanoid size with teeth all the way across like a shark with red eyes and a long tail. This happened repeatedly. It was horrifying. And then it especially happened. I began to grab as I got older, the Bible and start reading it. And that would make it worse. That would really piss them off. And so it was just a different dimension I was looking at. That's all it was. I was looking at, there's different dimensions between Earth to these higher realms. Now, I was told there's 12 heavenly realms. Okay. I don't know if that's true. There's evidently no way I can prove that. If I can, I probably won't be seeing y'all again. But that's what I was told. So I don't know. But some people say 7, 8. I've been told 12. So on Earth, and I was also told where people go like lost souls, they go to a place called the Merc, and they're just in a kind of holding pattern, because they have to decide to cross over, and they have people trying to help them. But they're just sort of hanging out. It's not the lobby; it's the Merc. It's this nebulous area. It's kind of misty like a fog. They just kind of hang out, and really that's a level. That's just another level. And there's the level that's closer to the demonic realm is Earth. I mean, it sounds really bad. So my goal is like when I do prayers or when I do any kind of healing work or readings, I don't do any of this ascended chakra business. I go straight to my Christ crown chakras up there, and I go straight to Christ and the heavenly and the angelic realms, and I bypass all this mess. I don't have anything. But as a child and growing up as a teenager, I didn't know how to handle it. But I've had a lot of the Kundalini stuff, all these things in between. I've had experiences being out of my body. I remember 14 looking in the mirror, and I'm like, what's this all about? And I stared and stared and stared and stared and stared, and I popped out behind my head and saw the back of my head from a distance. That was freaky. That was what I was like. And then I was freaked out. And then I went, oh, that's cool. I want to do it again. So I've had a lot of these spiritual experiences,
Gosh.
a lot with ghosts. And I feel sorry for them, but I don't trust them because they also can be manipulators. They can also, unlike what people have told you, they can hurt you. So I bring in, the power of God in Christ. Angels say, no, I'll assist. You can tell Jesus about it, but but here are your boundaries. And I think that's what a lot of people and the spiritual, how do I say it? The spiritual practitioners that want to embark on that. It's always important to surround yourself with the highest, God, the creator, and or angels or Christ, and depending what you believe in. But I just know he loves everybody, and he's really good with being protective to everyone. He's a good resource. But um, this has changed me now to opening up so much, and then also the spiritually transformative experiences over the So at 38, the one after the menstrual pill thing, I started doing right a little before that. I've done about 400 hours of past life, and most of it was not on this planet. And most of it was evidential, meaning I was seeing things, how they were built, how they were put together, how we used to start cars. I've spent a lot of past lives in France too. A lot of past lives. A lot of past lives in England.
Oh my gosh. Incredible. Can I just quickly ask you about your near-death experiences? We have so much to cover. Oh my gosh. Just a couple of questions, and thank you for sharing so openly and honestly.
Sure.
Just backtracking, when you were 3, you mentioned lost souls would come to you and you didn't know what to do, and you spoke about the demonic realm. For those of the audience that may be experiencing some aspect of this, what is your advice?
Lost souls and the demonic. Okay. So first of all, I want to tell people there is an answer, and don't freak out. There's different ways. I'll just tell you my experience that I've seen how they can come in to give people. Okay, so first of all, it's just something that's out there, just like bad people, right? We don't go looking for that, but when it does, we kind of know what to do to stay away. We know it, right? But a lot of people aren't taught what to do about this. What I find, it can come sometimes, and I'm going to start the more innocent way. It can come if you buy houses or furniture. So let me make, oh my goodness, we're going to go here, Luisa. But this is good information, and I really know a lot about this, okay? Firsthand, unfortunately, because I've had people and clients, and I'm like, okay, we'll deal with this over the years. So I've seen things, but I think it's made me, I wouldn't have believed half of this if I didn't see it for my own eyes and experience it. Number one, furniture and antiques carry an energy. So let's think about it. If someone has a heirloom of furniture or like a wedding ring, that has charge. That is someone's energy vibration imprint in it. Sometimes when lost souls go on, we're very big. Oh gosh, I can't believe we're going to go deep with this. So when we're here now, we're also on other planets and we're also in heaven. We're huge. So part of our soul's section off, we're not incomplete. We just can be a lot of places. Remember the whole Jesus can multitask and be different places. So can we. So the ring or the furniture, part of that essence of that spirit can stay there. Well, what's so bad about that? Well, even in the friendliest way, do you really want a bunch of ghosts in your house? Number one, because energetically, if their presence is more known in this piece, it can suck the energy off of you. And now I have a whole lifetime of experience on this from other people that I've had to deal with. These different things come up and even a family member, one of these things came up. I said, you got to stop buying the antiques. It comes up in readings. You got a Civil War sword. You got a Civil War dude. Why do you have this? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, no, it's not good. Nobody needs a Civil War soldier hanging in their house. I mean, he's not evil, but it's your energy. It's your space. It needs to be your space. You don't need to share it with a Civil War ghost who's trying to do a good job to protect you, but it's no longer requiring your services. And so even in the best way, that can suck off your energy. And I have people that live in homes that either are old and it's actually the home itself or the furniture, or it could just be the chandelier. I can go in and say, it's the chandelier only. It's that picture right there. Where'd you get that? In the Orient at a shop. I'm like, you got to get that out. It's right there. And I go right to it. And sometimes there's more than one. And they'll play off the energy. So that's not good either. But in the very least, it can make people fatigued if they are around these haunted objects. Number two, if there are dark energies. So we're going to go here. So just like in life, so when someone drops their body, they can still decide to go with God and Christ and the angel. They can still decide that. So people, in the South, in the USA, we're always trying to like get people to turn real quick and accept Jesus before they die. But honestly, they can accept God after they've, dropped their body. They have help. Angels are around. It's all good. They still have time. But there's some that refuse to. When ghosts refuse to, they usually go in clusters of other ghosts. And then which is like a ghost hive, that they're usually trapped by demons. People don't like to hear this. This is how it goes. They're demons. So when you see these haunted shows, and they may see the lady of the house, which may be benign and not nefarious in any way, the lady of the house, but then you have other but then there's another thing that's evil. Well, yeah, that's not the ghost, that's the demon. So it can attach to things. So again, the ghost alone can drain energetically us, and the darker things literally want to rob our soul. I used to never believe that, but it's literally that. They literally want to aspect and drain that and take that. It's not nice, okay? And so when people know that, that's good information, because you always call in a higher power on that. And you have to be tough too. You have to say, no, I'm a child of the Most High. Back off. You have to really assert yourself and bring that in. People also bring it in through doing Ouija. I've seen that a lot. It's a lot because it's like a 1-800 number. You're opening the door into realms that have been closed. Spirit people that are loving, they don't need they don't need a Ouija board to get a hold of you. They love you. They're around you. They're around by your heart. They when you think about them and you say, "Gosh, I love and miss you so much," they're like, "I love you too." And they have permission from heaven to come check on you, and they're there too. And they're very busy in heaven. They're doing a lot of stuff. They got a lot of activities to do, and they help people from there, and they pray for us here. But the demonic realm usually comes in through, and Jesus told me this, the 7 deadly sins. So pride. Okay, that's one of them. Pride, lust. And so I asked Jesus, how's that work? I said, how's that work? And he goes, well, if you had envy of a brother had envy of his brothers, of his wealth and his wife, he might kill him for the money. I went, oh, that's like a bunch of them at once. Lust, envy, greed, murder, that's quite a few. So you're getting a demon with each one. It's real. Some of these are really complex. So people open these doors. I think some people are oppressed. And I think a lot of people that are Christian don't understand this, that you can be oppressed by these darker spirits, but you have authority over that. So I think recognizing it and just don't go down that dark road. If you know there's,
the power of
just
prayer.
don't do it. So does that answer?
Oh, sorry. That was my dog.
I'm just going to tell you flat out what I know to be true. God's holy angels are so amazing. They're so badass. We are so protected, but guess what? We got to ask for their help. We got to ask, Jesus, send your angels now. I need you now. Did you feel that? I just felt that. Jesus, send your angels now. I just felt, woo.
It's that simple for those.
Oh, yes. Did you feel how high? I'm high.
Yeah,
you got to call them in.
I got goosebumps. I've heard whoever's listening to this in the audience, addictions, there's some sort of attachment there, whatever it might be, form, shape. There's so many addictions that certainly aren't for our best and highest good.
No, you're absolutely right. And matter of fact, Jesus has a lot of grace for people with addictions because he knows that's how these lower level entities can try to get through. And whether it's, alcohol, drugs, but what it basically does, even if you don't have addictions, and I'm not against drinking. I like a rose. I like rose or lavender martinis now and then. Okay. So I'm not against that, but you just, anyone has to know if they're spiritual that if you drink, especially if you're sad, like you're really sad for some reason, and then you drink, that is such an open doorway for these things because they're sneaky. They're real sneaky, and they'll try to come in and say things like, you suck, you're not worth it, you whatever, or they'll hit your buttons and they'll try to lower your defenses, and they try to make you less, and anything they do is try to remove you away from God. So the answer is always to go to God and go to God, especially in your weakness, or especially if you feel awful. Even if someone's an addict and you're using, go to God, because that's your defense till you get the help, because God's going to, let me tell you what, Jesus knows all about this. I did a big presentation on the Ascensions for Portal to Ascension, and I gave this big thing, a big channeling thing at the end with Jesus, which was cool. But they knew about it, that the Essenes were the ones that were teachers of Jesus, supposedly, which I believe to be true, but not all of them, but some of them, the big part of it. And they knew about addictions because that was how these things came in, because they can't spiritually do it if you put the claim, I'm a child of the Most High, you are not welcome here. Just like a vampire, you're not welcome here. And I do encourage everybody to bless their home, their own home. I'm not a proponent of blessing other people's home for two reasons. It's not your home. Number two, if you do the blessing, when I do a home blessing, and I have a book for that, that if anybody wanted that, I've got a free book. But the thing is, it's if you bless your home and sage, I do holy water. You can do sage, it's fine, but it won't last. I do the holy water with it. And you can do salt as well. But to do that properly, um, you're going to get rid of the history, anything on the history of the land, anything in the house, whether it be the furniture, but guess what? The people. So if the people aren't clean in it, and I've had where a house blessing, so it didn't go well, and it's the 13-year-old daughter who's doing some weird game online that's demonic, and, and they need a cleansing. And so that's good news, though, right? Because you want to clean everybody. You want everybody up to snuff, everybody clean, everybody good. And so anything can come up. So when that happens, that person, that family needs to believe in God and just kind of live a holy life. You don't want to be perfect, but just, really have respect for God and keep your house that way. And don't let people in that aren't that way, because they can mess up the vibe of your house if you have these low tone people in. And so I encourage people to do it, to take responsibility for their own home and to put the authority of, God and Christ over their house as a protective covenant. And I pray every night before I go to bed that the angels, all the archangels are all that they're standing. I have them stationed around my house. I have Michael go through my house and do a clearing. I have angels all through the yard, the front and back and the sides, the top and the bottom of the house. I put a protective white light God bubble over the house and put a pink bubble over me and my husband.
Tamara, gosh, what a lifetime you've signed up for. Where's the best place for people to find you and connect with you?
Well, thank you for asking. I do, I have the Seeking Heaven channel on YouTube, which I'm going to be bringing you on. We're going to do an interview. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so, have them check that. I have a lot of free Christ channelings and that type of thing on there. Also, southernbellemedium.com, where I do offer globally. I do this online, evidential psychic medium and life path. So I get into, I work with Jesus. It's real sweet. And then I get into a lot of detail. A lot of your relatives want to chat things up. It's like a reunion. And so that is on Southern Belle Medium. And then I have a Ascension school, and that is academyofdivinewisdom.com, academyofdivinewisdom.com. And so I guess that can be, I don't know if you're going to put that below, but I do have a class coming up on March 3rd, and it is called, it is how to, what is it? Superpower training that I'm going to be offering. And that would be for 2 hours. I'm going to be coaching you, talking about all the spiritual arts. Because a lot of people like me, they just develop this. What do I do with it? Who do I go that I can trust? And I think they should know at this point who I work with. Jesus.
Amazing.
He keeps me straight on things, and he tells me everything is so great. But I will actually link in, and like this last class I would have pair people up, and they're that were wanting to be students, and then I would pair them up. Who wants to do this and that? Okay. And then I would observe and say, okay, go in closer to your heart. And then some people were using, I said, you don't need that. Just use your heart, connect to them as a human being. And so I would help them through, because I've had so much extensive training. I trained 8 years in the British style of evidential mediumship with Tony Stockwell, and evidential mediumship and trance, which I'm a physical and mental medium, and a trance and conscious channel. And then I studied and certified through Lisa Williams, which I studied extensively years with, and also John Holland. So I've trained a lot, as well as I've done a lot of my own.
But
I'm
you've had a lot of your own experiences, that's for sure. And I also will leave a link in the show notes for anyone that missed that. Or and March 3 happens to be my birthday, so that's a lucky number. Yeah, 3-3.
But thank you for having me today.
Oh my gosh, it's a pleasure. So everyone that's listening, this is a 2-part episode, and who knows where the next part will go to, but I really want to focus on channeling Jesus and have some powerful, incredible messages from him. And also you're a part of the Galactic Federation, so I can't wait to go there as well. I've just got one more question about your near-death experience. There's many stories that you shared. Did you, after you left the hospital, did you return to your sexually abusive stepfather or mother's boyfriend?
Unfortunately, yes, because I went back into that family. And so, but what I began to do is put my time into art and drawing. And I became very kind of quiet, even though that's not my innate personality, but that's what I did. And I was a bit gruff with him. So to try to keep him away. But that sexual abuse lasted till 12 years old.
Gosh, I don't know what to say except I'm so sorry.
Well, it made me more compassionate. I mean, not that I would recommend that, but it
No.
did make me, if there was a benefit, more compassionate to those that have had gone through some kind of abuse. And I can sense it and know it with people, even the most slick personalities and that I've seen, celebrity types. I can still tell. I can spend just a
Yeah.
few minutes and I'm like, mm-hmm. It's unfortunately quite common. And so I feel sorry for them. Anyone that would do that to a child has to be really disturbed mentally.
Well, unimaginable, yes. Oh, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that, and I can't wait to speak to you for part 2. Tamara, thank you so much for being on Passion Harvest today.
Yay. Thank you. I had so much fun.
Me too. Me too. My gosh. Can't wait to re-listen to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.